This winter is about to get very active, as several storms are set to impact the United States over the next 7 days. This includes the return of severe weather this weekend with multiple tornadoes, a ton of snow from California to the northeast, and a winter heat wave that'll get the Groundhog fired from his job. Our first storm arrives today, and this one will bring widespread impacts. This storm has the potential to shatter your heart for Valentine's Day, as widespread rainfall will make conditions dreary from Texas to the East Coast. Severe weather with damaging winds, large hail, and a couple of tornadoes possible, and some snow showers. On the flip side, a dramatic pattern change will lead to a surge of warm air across the central United States. This will lead to record-breaking heat early next week, as far north as Minnesota. To make matters more complicated, several storms will surge out of the Pacific Ocean next week. This will lead to additional heavy snow and thunderstorm threats across the central and eastern United States. We have a lot to talk about in today's forecast, and I want to begin with the weather pattern that'll be impacting the United States, and this is going to be vastly different than what we've been dealing with over the last couple of weeks. This is our jet stream, and right now, we have a pretty big dip in our jet stream back over in the desert southwest. This is where a storm system is located, and this is expected to bring severe weather today, tomorrow, and Sunday to areas like Texas, New Mexico, and back into the Dixie Alley with damaging winds, hail, and perhaps a few tornadoes being a possibility. The big story, though, will be this ridge behind it, as this is going to bring another winter, quote-unquote, heat wave to the Great Plains. We're going to be dealing with some record-breaking heat to begin next week, as far north as Minnesota and South Dakota. And this is all thanks to this very dominant high-pressure system. However, this high-pressure system is actually good news for snow lovers, especially across the northern tier of the country. Because during the beginning of next week, our jet stream is going to really start to intensify all across the desert southwest and back into the northern plains. We're also going to have a very large storm system impacting California. This will dump a lot of rain and a lot of mountain snow back off to the west of the Rockies. But it will also bring a lot of moisture and energy over the Rockies as we go into the beginning of next week. What this means is that we'll see a bunch of storms impacting the United States during the middle and end of next week. I think there's 2 very good chances of winter storms east of the Rockies next week. Notice how intense our jet stream is going to be. Very strong winds aloft, stretching from Arizona back into the mid-Atlantic. And this is going to be a powerhouse when it comes to bringing tons of moisture from the Pacific Ocean into the country, and then on top of that, bring the possibility of snow and as well as rain for millions. Just to give you an idea of the power that this jet stream is going to unleash, this is what the moisture looks like over the next 7 to 10 days. We obviously have a very large blob of moisture that's making its way into the central United States today. And this is going to bring a lot of rain and severe storms over the next couple of days. But more notably, next week, we are going to have a very large atmospheric river event, and that's going to allow for a large trail of moisture to stretch from the Pacific Ocean back into the northeast. So, these storms are going to thrive off of all this moisture, and so we should at least have 2 very big storms next week. But obviously, we need to get through the storm that's also happening this weekend. Speaking of that storm this weekend, we do have the return of severe weather for tens of millions of people, and it all begins today. We do have a marginal risk of severe weather from South Kansas back into West Texas. This does include Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls, Texas, also included in this, where there will be some isolated large hail late this afternoon into the evening hours. Tomorrow's a bit more notable, though. We have a large marginal threat stretching from western Mississippi into southern Oklahoma. Almost all of central and east Texas is included in this, where damaging winds will be the primary concern. I could see there being a couple of storms that produce quarter to half-dollar size hail, and also a couple of tornadoes are going to be on the table. From Dallas, Fort Worth, and Abilene back into Houston, central Louisiana, and western Mississippi. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if this risk were to increase in a future outlook. There could be some sort of slight risk at play. The main concern, though, again, should be damaging winds. By Sunday, our threat of severe weather will be mostly across the Gulf Coast, where more damaging winds and a couple of tornadoes are possible. Let's talk more about these storms that'll be impacting the country over the next 7 days. Beginning with what is happening today. And today is going to be relatively quiet for most of the lower 48. The main area that'll be dealing with some problems will be back over in the high plains in Texas and Oklahoma, where widespread rain will become more of a concern by late tonight. There could be some severe storms, and we'll go more in detail about the exact timing of the severe weather in just a moment. As we go into Saturday morning, the storm system is going to intensify and become a large area of rain. So plenty of showers and thunderstorms will be ongoing Saturday morning in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and even back into Kansas. And I know many of you guys are not under a risk of severe storms, but there could be some rumbles of thunder out there. Once we go into Saturday afternoon, our threat of severe weather will begin to increase, back over in southern Arkansas, Louisiana, and East Texas. A line of storms will form with damaging winds, a little bit of hail, and then possibly a couple of tornadoes. And then a blob of rain will continue to move into the Tennessee Valley. By late tomorrow night and into early Sunday, we are expecting some localized flooding to be a concern. So, definitely stay weather aware if you're in a low-lying area. Once we go into Sunday afternoon and evening, the storm system is going to become pretty broad in general. It's not going to be producing much of anything aside from rain. However, there could be some light snowfall back over Maryland and West Virginia by Sunday night. It's nothing to write home about, though. We're not talking about any sort of significant accumulation. Just some light flurries, maybe somewhere picks up a dusting to 1 inch. I'm not expecting much of anything, though, out of this particular event. By late Sunday, early Monday, this storm system is moving offshore, and then all of our focus will shift back to the West Coast. And this is what's going to eventually trigger multiple storms to move over the Rockies by the middle of next week. So, we'll have a lot of rain falling across California and Oregon by Monday morning. This will lead to a flooding risk across most of Western California. So, if you're anywhere from San Diego back into Western Oregon, you want to be staying weather aware on Monday. Heavy mountain snow will continue across the Cascades and the Sierra Nevada Monday night into Tuesday. Lots of snow will be falling across the Rockies and the West Coast on Tuesday. We could even see upwards of 60 to 80 inches of snow within only just a few days if you're back over in the Sierra Nevada. Really crazy stuff there. By Tuesday afternoon, we have a large storm system that'll be forming across the Rockies and also the northern plains. This will be one of 2 notable storm systems that we are expecting next week. So, this one is going to move into the northern plains. It'll be mainly producing rain, snow, and also very high wind gusts. I want you to pay attention to not just the pressure of this storm, but also how tight our isobars are. Those are those small little black lines, and that is what's going to keep our winds very high. It's a very tight pressure gradient, essentially, between our high-pressure system and our low-pressure system. So high winds are expected Tuesday night across most of the northern and central United States. We'll also have a lot of heavy snow ongoing, it looks like, by late Tuesday and early Wednesday. Now, this is not going to be affecting areas like Kansas or Missouri. However, if you're over in the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, your snowpack is decreasing rapidly as our temperatures are increasing. So, we should have a snowpack coming back into play here by the middle of next week, if your snow's melted off. We'll also have a little bit of freezing rain potential perhaps across parts of Wisconsin and Michigan. For right now, it does not look to be any sort of ice storm, but that could definitely change as we get closer. Heavy snow will continue across the upper Midwest and the northern plains during Wednesday. This could move into the Northeast by Thursday, but granted, this is about a week from now, so things could still change. Thursday, we'll have another storm system, which is going to come from all that moisture and energy along the west coast. This one could be a lot more impactful for a lot more people. Main reason why is because this storm has a better chance of taking a more southern trajectory. So by Thursday night and early Friday, some of the models currently are showing a storm system forming in the Central Plains near Kansas City. This low-pressure system will likely also be strong around 990–985 millibars. It'll likely produce a threat of at least some showers, maybe some thunderstorms on the south side of the low by late Thursday of next week. So again, about a week from now, the possibility of heavy snow may be on the table from western New York back into Iowa. I do not have as much confidence that this storm system is going to pan out exactly to this as of right now, because it is still a week from now. I have a lot more confidence in the storm system on Wednesday, as that has been showing on models for days now. This one's only been showing for maybe about a day or two, so this one's not nearly as high of confidence. However, if you're back over in the Midwest, Great Lakes in the Northeast, and you want some snowfall, this is definitely something I'll be looking forward to, as it does look at least possible right now that we'll have a decent shot of snow by the end of the work week next week. It could also impact the Northeast. Beyond this, things get a lot more uncertain. Right now, the GFS model continues to show a pretty active weather pattern across most of the country. This mostly has to do with our orientation of our jet stream. So it should be a much more active second half of February in comparison to the first half of February. Before we go into more details about why this winter is about to get record-breaking in terms of heat, I want to touch more on our severe weather setup for today and tomorrow and go more detail about timing. Beginning with today, we'll have some isolated hailstorms stretching from Oklahoma City back towards Midland, Texas late this afternoon. This picture here is about 7 o'clock, so a few hailstorms will be out there. For the most part, we're really just talking about hail. There will not be much of a tornado risk. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a brief tornado, but generally speaking, most storms will be elevated, which should prevent that. Tomorrow morning, a cluster of storms will be ongoing back towards Wichita Falls. Heavy rain will be stretching up towards Joplin and Springfield. We'll have a lot of heavy rain and thunderstorms ongoing tomorrow morning across Oklahoma City, back towards Abilene. Not expecting much severe weather to really get going until probably around 2 to 3 tomorrow afternoon. That'll be mainly along a line of thunderstorms near Dallas-Fort Worth down the I-35 corridor towards San Antonio. This will continue into the evening hours, and it should be mostly a line of thunderstorms. However, if we get any sort of prefrontal supercells out in front of the line, there may be a better chance of an isolated tornado. I do not really think there's much of a strong tornado risk for tomorrow. However, definitely stay weather aware, as any tornado can be damaging, especially with all the infrastructure out here. A lot of trees out there that could easily get knocked down by tomorrow night. This line of storms will continue to track east. I honestly think the overnight threat could be a bit more concerning, with a long line of thunderstorms continuing to produce scattered damaging winds around 60 to 70 miles per hour. Perhaps some embedded tornadoes in this line during the overnight hours into early Sunday morning. And that'll eventually move into Alabama, southern Mississippi, and also near New Orleans by the dawn of Sunday. This storm will bring a lot of rain. It's not just the severe weather, but we are expecting a widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain from Dallas-Fort Worth into Nashville, Tennessee. There will be some localized areas, especially near the Mississippi River Valley, that pick up closer to about 4 to 5 inches of rain. So, generally speaking, this will be a pretty impactful storm system. It's not going to be the worst storm that we've seen all year, or really in the last several weeks even, but it will definitely be something to watch for, as it is a completely different storm than what we've been dealing with here recently, with a lot of the other ones being snow and ice. This one is going to be more geared towards heavy rainfall and severe storms. For all those winter lovers out there, we might have to fire the Groundhog, because we do not have 6 more weeks of winter coming. We're at least going to have 1 week of that eliminated here over the next 7 days, as we are going to have a brutal heat wave impacting the country. Obviously, this is not 90s and 100s for areas like Nebraska and Kansas, but we're going to be talking about 60s and 70s for high temperatures by the middle of next week across Des Moines back into central Kansas. Many areas running as much as 40 degrees above average. So, not good news for those that were looking for some winter weather. However, if you're back over in the Midwest, the northern plains, this is great news as we could have some pretty significant winter storms during the middle and end of next week. The dramatic shift in weather patterns represents a fundamental change from the relatively quiet conditions that have dominated much of the winter season. The combination of severe weather returning to the southern plains, record-breaking warmth spreading across the central United States, and major snow events developing across both the western mountains and northern tier creates a complex and dynamic atmospheric situation. What makes this pattern particularly noteworthy is the extreme nature of the temperature departures from normal. When we're looking at temperatures potentially reaching 40 degrees above average across areas like Kansas and Nebraska, we're dealing with values that would be more typical of late March or early April rather than mid-February. This type of warmth not only affects immediate weather conditions, but also has implications for snowpack melting, soil moisture, and early-season agricultural activities. The severe weather potential also represents a significant shift from the winter weather focus of recent weeks. The return of tornado threats, damaging wind potential, and large hail across the southern plains signals the beginning of what could be an early and active severe weather season. The atmospheric dynamics supporting these severe weather events are being enhanced by the strong temperature contrasts and abundant moisture transport from both Pacific and Gulf sources. Meanwhile, the western United States is preparing for what could be one of the most significant snow events of the winter season, with the Sierra Nevada potentially receiving 60 to 80 inches of snow in just a few days. This represents a crucial development for water supply concerns and drought mitigation efforts across California and the broader western region.